humans seem to be pretty happy when they form communities, however you define that. So romantic partnership, family.
Some communities, people are miserable in other communities. So the nature of the community matters, right? We know this. We know that some bondings are not healthy and not good for the individuals involved, and they don't thrive. So I absolutely. I mean, I'm a lover, not a fighter, right? So I'm a huge believer in love. The whole philosophy, I think, is a love-based philosophy. I fight in order to love, right? So it's love is at the core of all of this, and it's a love of life. It's a love of the world out there, and it's a love of other people because they represent a value to you. So the stickiness is there. It's my point is, it should be chosen. It should be consciously chosen. And this is, put aside the state, forget the state for a minute, forget coercion, forget all that. What I would encourage individuals to do, and this is where, I'm not primarily a political, interested in politics, although I tend to talk most about that. I'm primarily interested in human beings and how they live, in a sense, in morality. And what I would urge individuals to do is to think about their relationships, to choose the best relationships possible, but to seek out great relationships, because other human beings are an immense value to us. And when I write, maybe you quoted this or not, but I write that about the trader principle in trading. It's easy and obvious to think of it as a materialistic kind of thing. I get, I do the chores this day and my wife does the chores the other day and we're trading. But trading is much more subtle than that, and can be much more spiritual than that. It's about the trading in emotions. It's about the way one sees each other. It's what one gets from one another. I think friendship is a form of trade. Now, I know that seems to make it material, but I don't think it's of trade as a material thing. But friendship is incredibly important in life. Love is incredibly important in life. Having a group of friends is incredibly important in life. All of these are sticky and important.
Okay, how can I try to be eloquent on this? So, if you give people freedom, if you give people
politics,
not politics, relationships. So this is interesting because we have an interesting dynamic going on here in terms of beliefs. They're differing, and so there was interesting overlaps. But there's a worry if you look at human history and you study the lessons of history and you look at modern society. If you give people freedom in terms of stickiness and human relations and so on, if you not give people freedom, emphasize freedom as the highest ideal, you start getting more Tinder, online dating, the stickiness dissolves, just like in chemistry. You start to have a gas versus a liquid, right? That's the worry. So you have to study what actually happens. If you emphasize that the stickiness, the bonds of humans is holding you back, the exercise of voluntary choice is the highest ideal. The danger of that is for that to be implemented or interpreted in certain kinds of ways by us flawed humans that are not, you could say we're perfectly reasonable and rational, we can think through all of our decisions, but really, especially when you're young, you get horny, you make decisions that are suboptimal, perhaps. So the point is, you have to look at reality of when you emphasize different things. So when you talk about what is the ideal life, what is the ideal relations, you have to also think what are you emphasizing? I think you both agree on what's important, that community can be important, that freedom is important, but what are you emphasizing? And you're really emphasizing the individual, and you're emphasizing, Yoram, you're emphasizing more of the community, of the family, of the stickiness of the nation.
Well, look, I don't want to deny the place of the individual. I think that that there really is a very great change in civilization when the books of Moses announce that the individual is created in the image of God. That's a step that's, as far as we know, without precedent before that in history. And to a very large degree, I mean, one of the kind of unspoken things going on is that Yaron and I really do agree on all sorts of things. I think in part because we're both Jewish, and
you did say Yaron is basically Moses yesterday.
No, I said he was channeling Moses, but
channeling.
that's still in my book. That's still
pretty
pretty.
impressive.
No, that's a compliment.
That's
No,
pretty.
I took it as one.
That for me, that's a compliment.
And we'll talk about this a little bit
so-
just for the listener, just so they know Yoram, amongst many things. We'll talk about the virtue of nationalism, but you're also a religious scholar of sorts, or at least leverage the Bible for not much, but some of the wisdom in your life.
Look, the way that Yaron looks at enlightenment, or maybe at Ayn Rand, that's the way that I see the Hebrew scripture and the tradition that comes from it. It has the same kind of place in my life, and I don't know how much we want to explore it, but I think that that the agreement that we do have about the positive value of the creative individual, the positive value of the individual's desire to improve the world, and in my book, that means including his or her desire to improve his family, his tribe, his congregation, his nation. But it still comes from this kind of, for what Yaron calls selfishness, the desire to make things better for yourself.